I'm Brandon Smith, and I'm the workplace therapist. My entire purpose and passion in life is one singular thing, and that's to help you live a life free from dysfunction. And let's be honest, folks, dysfunction is everywhere. Our bosses, our coworkers, our neighbors, even that grumpy barista that pours your coffee. And sometimes, that dysfunction stares back at us in the face when we're getting ready in the mornings and we see ourselves in the mirror. Well, at the end of the day, life and work should not have to suck. The purpose of this show is to help you overcome those roadblocks in your life to help you realize the life you've always wanted. This is the Brandon Smith Show, and I am your host, Brandon Smith, and the entire purpose of the show is one singular thing, and that is to help you eliminate dysfunction. And so speaking of dysfunction, I've had a very hard time getting the show started today because my colleagues on the show have been, not Natalie so much, mostly Whitney. So this is going to be an interesting show because we actually have multiple voices on the show rather than just a couple. And so for our topic today, we're talking about office romance. We're talking about office romance, hugs and kisses, little loving. Was that necessary? Really?
I think it
Really?
was.
So we're gonna talk about this topic and about when's it okay? Is it okay? Is it not okay? And to navigate this conversation a little bit, we've got a couple folks here in the studio, and then Isaac, our producer, is also going to be chiming in. So we have wonderful Whitney, one of my amazing producers.
I kind of like that
Can you
wonderful Whitney.
Yeah, that's
Can
good.
you say hello?
That was good.
Hello. And you are married to someone who's also part of the show. Yes?
I think so.
Isaac.
I'm here. Hello.
Isaac is here, and Isaac and Whitney are married. We're going to talk
We
about
are.
your story. Isaac, also a wonderful producer. And Natalie, social media champion.
Woo, woo.
That's me. That's me.
And she's going to help us take on this topic. Okay.
I had Eye of the Tiger in my head for you.
I like it.
That was
I have a tiger.
Yeah.
I like champion.
Yeah.
Champion. We talked about
Boom.
titles, and I just kind of like champion
Boom.
is, to me.
I'm getting there.
You left
Like
out
champion.
those other things I said though. What else did I say? I said she was like an MMA fighter. Cool. No, I said coolness guru.
I
Left that out.
I didn't like those.
Coolness guru?
I didn't like those. No, you were not good.
We'll come up with more. I'll become a more
I
permanent
like mine
guest,
better.
and we'll come up
Okay,
with
thank
more.
you.
Yeah, that's fine. And then I'll decide if we're going to say it. Because guess what? It's the Brandon Smith Show.
Not for long.
Okay, so
Okay,
I want
Jeff.
to talk about office romance. And I want to start by first hearing a little bit about your story, Whitney. So you and Isaac met at work. Is that true?
We did. That's true. Guilty.
How did this happen? Tell us the story.
Well, Isaac actually trained me at our previous job, and we were friends. He'd been there a couple of years.
And this was
I
a radio station
coming
job.
on. It was radio station job. Yeah, that's kind of where our passion started. As far not passion for the,
Wow.
the field.
Yes. That is,
I caught
save
it.
that clip.
I caught it too
Isaac,
late.
save
Got
that
it.
clip.
Passion
That's
for
where
what
our
we do.
passion started.
As far as the job. So like what we're doing now.
And not just the job, apparently.
Yes. Okay. So podcasting, social media, video, that's where our passion started there. And then we met. He had been there a couple of years. I came on. Isaac was training me. So we became friends. We were friends for 3 years. 3 years. Before like ever dating, we were just really good friends. Isaac's-
And then
Isaac's going to get me because I don't know how much he wants me to tell. But I always thought that he was just a gentleman because he was always very nice. He would open doors, always say good morning when you see him, things like that. And we were just friends. One of my favorite parts is he actually remembers what I was wearing when I came in for the interview. So he had his eye on me.
Yep.
That was nice. So anyway,
keep going.
I'm
And
getting
so
all
then
blushy
so,
now.
So we had a little we passion for podcasting and radio and work, and then
Yeah, there's so much of the story I'm going to have to tell you when we're not
That's
not
fair,
putting
Brandon.
this out
it's
there.
okay. It's
Yeah.
just this is just a conversation among
No,
friends.
no. So anyway, we started dating. and things were.
Okay,
Yeah.
no.
You're not gonna let me just jump into that, are you?
No. That's not how the story goes. We don't just go, and then we were dating. No. There's a point in there when you went from coworkers to not coworkers.
So we went to lunch. So then the roles flipped. There was a new show that came out, and correct me if I'm wrong, Isaac, but I think I was teaching him on this new show because he was going to take on this new show. I had been doing it for a while. He was going to take it on and become the producer. So we went to lunch under the disguise of we're going to talk about this show. Okay. And he bought my lunch. And once again,
not disguise. I mean, you really had the intention of just working, right? I mean, this was not.
Yeah. I don't know that Isaac did. I think Isaac kind of, already liked me.
Oh, okay, so keep going. He's right. He's enjoying the story. I am too. Keep going. So
okay.
Then he buys your lunch.
We rode together. Oh, I'm thinking about another story too. I have so much to say. I have so much to tell you. Okay. So then this particular lunch, we rode together. I had no clue where he was taking me. I thought maybe I was going to be killed. Took me to lunch, bought my lunch. So that was kind of my first clue. Like, oh, okay. Because it wasn't like, if it was just coworkers, he probably would have bought his lunch and I would have bought my lunch. So that was kind of my first clue. This is the part where he's going to kill me. So then we're headed back to the station. And I think you asked me if I was dating anyone.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, nice success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like,
That's a move.
I was looking out the window like, no, not really. Are you? I don't like girls.
That's what he said.
That is what he said.
That is what I said.
And I was like, oh, I guess he's not interested in dating then. I guess he really is just a gentleman like I originally thought. Well, then we started texting. And he asked me if I would like to go to dinner.
Oh, so there's the ask.
Yes. And so then, of course, as women do, I'm kind of going back in my brain like, yep, that was just flirting at lunch. He does like me.
Okay. And so then you went to dinner and then you started dating.
Yes.
And then, so let's talk about this part.
Okay.
So you're coworkers.
Yes.
But you're dating.
Correct.
Did you keep it under wraps so no one knew?
Yes, we did. And we had a conversation specifically about doing that. So when we were dating, and we had kind of, and I don't mean to make this sound cliche or anything, because you hear people say all the time, when you know, you know. So we had both told each other that we knew that this had the potential to become something serious, like long-term, future serious. And we just had a conversation like, well, we're working together. How are we going to handle it? And what are we going to do if we want to call it off? So if we say, well, this was great, I really like you as a person, because like I said, we'd been friends for years, but maybe we shouldn't date anymore. We had the conversation about how we're going to handle that.
Okay. And then when you were in the office with each other, did you just try to avoid each other?
We acted the same.
Okay.
Acted the same. So in the way that our office was set up, we had 2 floors. So Isaac was the majority of the time on the 7th floor and I was on the 8th floor. But there were often circumstances that brought us together and we'd work on the same project or be in a meeting together or anything like that, office Christmas party, stuff like that. And we said nothing to anyone. We acted like, again, nobody really had anything to suspect because we had always been friends. But that's how we were. We just acted like we had always acted and kept it under wraps.
Okay,
no one knew.
In a minute, I want to hear Natalie's story because I think she has a story to tell around this too.
That's a good one.
Okay. Before I do this though,
yeah,
I want to move towards the end of this part of your story.
Okay.
So at some point, you all got engaged.
Yes.
And you were still working together.
Correct.
At that point, did you tell people?
Yes.
And were they surprised?
Some were. And some said, oh, well, yeah, we could see that. We could see you going together. And then they kind of, I think once we said we're engaged, then they were like, oh, okay, yeah.
But no one said, oh, we all been talking about you dating for a long time.
Yeah.
We knew you've been dating.
No.
No.
I think we had one person that said that they suspected.
Okay.
But that was pretty much it.
And
Because we tried to be, we tried to be very.
Were there any policies in your office that said you couldn't date coworkers?
Only if they were a direct report. So if
Okay.
Isaac would have been my boss, yes, then we wouldn't have been able to date and be in the same workplace. One of us would have had to leave.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. All right. Okay, good. Now, Natalie, how about you? You have kind of a similar story around this.
A little bit. It was after my freshman year of college. I worked at a restaurant for 4 or 5 months, whatever the summer was. And it was just kind of a job to have to make money to go into the next school year. And it was my first job that was paying, that wasn't babysitting or, just doing chores, working around the house, working for people in the neighborhood. So I was excited. And it was the first thing I think I remember is we were having a team meeting because I had brought something to the attention of the owner of the store that was happening that was inappropriate. And so we're all sitting at the counter and the owner's kind of yelling and I'm looking around really nervous. And I look to the other end of the counter and there's this, I think it's a kid. I think he's like 15. And he's laughing, looking right at me. And I'm thinking, why is this kid laughing at me? What is so funny? I'm terrified, thinking like I'm going to get in trouble for bringing this issue to the attention of the owner. And he's sitting there laughing. And so I thought to myself, I don't want to work with this kid. I don't know who he is.
What was he laughing at? Do you know?
Just probably me looking so scared. Because I was scared that the owner is going to start yelling. He's going to say, I brought this issue to his attention, called me out. And my boyfriend's over there just laughing. And I thought, oh, this is not good.
Boyfriend to be.
Boyfriend to be, yeah. So we worked together for the next, 2 to 3 months and kind of just developed a little bit of a friendship. I didn't know him that well, but we worked together at least a couple times a week. And finally, one of my other coworkers said, I think he might have a crush on you. I think he might be interested in you. And I was going back to school in Alabama. So I said, that's really nice. He's a nice guy. I'd gotten to know him and, we'll see what happens. I really wasn't banking on anything. And so I think we had started to text. Like I had his phone number because we worked together, switching shifts, all that kind of stuff. And I think I was the person who said, hey, do you want to do something sometime? Go to dinner, go see a movie,
so
whatever.
You made the first move.
Yeah, I think I did. He would correct me if I was wrong, but I really do think that I did. And we went out to dinner, and then we went to see a movie. And, I told him at the end of that night, I said, listen, I'm leaving to go back to school in 2 weeks. And I don't come home that often, maybe once a month, maybe once every month and a half. Like school is my job. And he said, okay, I understand, either this will work or it won't. And so we started dating, and I think we worked together 2 to 3 weeks before I left. And then I left and I said, if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. It's a good experience either way. And 3 years later, we're still dating. So it worked out well. Worked out really well. Yeah. Yeah.
Boom,
Successful.
Boom, boom. Did you hear that? Boom, boom.
I did.
A little boom, boom. Okay, all right. So we're nearing a break. So I'm going to tease going into the break. I'm going to tease with this question. Okay, so I want you to be thinking about this.
Okay.
So would you recommend to someone that they get involved in an office romance? Okay, so think about that. Like, would you recommend it? Because after all, both of you are in long-term relationships as a result of office romance. One waited for someone to pursue. The other one said, hey, let's go out. But you're both in relationships as a result of this. Okay, so hold that thought. And then we want to talk about what are the pluses and minuses of that. Okay, all right. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, we got a little more romancing to do.
We're going to need another segment.
Stay tuned.
Job plus the right culture plus the right boss equals workplace happiness. The number one reason people leave jobs is problems with their boss. A horrible boss can make us dread every Monday, but an amazing boss can make us so excited to work that we'd go in on weekends. Finding your perfect boss is not only possible, it's one of the most impactful steps you can take in crafting your perfect career. Visit theworkplacetherapist.com and click on guides to learn how to find and get your perfect boss. Whether that means making the decision to move on or turning your current boss into the perfect leader you want them to be. Our bosses have so much influence over our work and our whole day. Working for the right boss alone can be a winning career strategy.
Welcome back to the Brandon Smith Show. As we left our show, we were talking about office romances, and Whitney and Natalie both shared their stories of office romances, and those resulted in long-term relationships that you're still in today, and not at the place where you were working, by the way. Both have moved on from those particular locations, but the relationship is still there. So I teed up this question going into break. Would you recommend an office romance to someone? If they came to you and said, you know, I think I'm really into this guy, or I'm really into this girl, and I think I want to ask him out. What do you think?
I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I was leaning towards no, too.
No, really? Here you two are.
Hypocrites.
Madly in love with passion and all the other things that you
Never
use that
gonna
word.
I'm never going to live that down.
She did.
You know what's funny, though?
And here you're like, no. Turn your back on love. That's what I'm hearing.
No.
Your back on love?
I told Isaac I'm breaking my own rule because I had set a rule for myself. Never date in the workplace.
Okay, why? Why did you both come to the same conclusion that no?
I think 9 times out of 10, it ends badly.
That's exactly it.
You hear that more often than not.
What does ends badly mean?
You break up.
There's some kind of public, not altercation, but fight, bickering that isn't supposed to happen, that just does, because although if you're in a relationship, the beginning of your relationship is fun, it's also, you're trying to learn things about each other. You may find out something you don't like, see something that doesn't interest you. You don't want to be at work and have something like that happen and get into a public bickering, fighting thing, and then have your whole relationship just in your coworker's face, in the business. It gets really complicated.
So it gets messy. It can affect other conversations, other relationships, affect your reputation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I totally get that.
And I don't even know if it's meant to be that way, right? Like you really have to have someone that you can trust and agree on that if this doesn't end well, you have to be professional and I'll be professional. But even still, it's really hard because I think in a way there's just this awkwardness there. Like, I think it's a natural thing that you kind of stop communicating and now all of a sudden you're separated and you're not really interacting like you used to. It just changes the dynamic.
And it could get even messier if one of you then starts dating someone else in the office.
Yeah,
that's very true.
Oh, no, that's not good. Now you got a little love triangle going on.
That's a nighttime TV show.
Yeah, really.
Prime time.
That's not.
Or a soap opera.
Yes.
I think that it can go wrong so many more ways than it can go right. And I think you just have to have the right people who are able to put their jobs and their profession first. And, not everybody is able to do that, and that's fine, but you need to know your own limits. If I'm a person who's going to be really emotionally wrapped up in this relationship, I'm not going to be able to handle seeing them in the workplace. I'm not going to be able to be professional if it ends badly. Wash your hands of it and walk away and say, if it's meant to happen, maybe it will later on down the line. When I get a new job, they get a new job, something else happens. But you got to know yourself really well.
To be able to know, can I handle this?
Exactly.
And what's going to happen if it goes the other way.
Exactly.
Beautifully put.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, there's hair flipping and everything going on. High-fiving. I feel so left out. I'm high-fiving Isaac. High five. Okay, so now let's say the call of love is too strong. Okay, I cannot turn away from that
Cupid's
siren
arrow.
song. Oh, that rhymed. And we do it anyway. Okay, so, and then we're in a relationship, we start dating, and we think it might go somewhere. Then there's some decisions to make. So decisions are, when do I tell people? When do we tell people? Do I stay, or does this other person stay at the job too, or does one of us start looking for another job? how would you counsel someone that says, too late, I'm already in it, I'm not really sure how we manage this at this point?
So they're already dating. They've already
Yeah.
made the decision.
They're already dating. They're dating 3 or 4 months, and they like the direction it's going.
I would recommend, if you didn't discuss it, go ahead and have a conversation
Yeah.
around it.
Mm-hmm.
Around
Go-
how to navigate this, and if
Yes.
things go
Yes.
not well, how are we going to do that? And
Right. And then that may naturally come up, because usually at some point, depending on how long you've been dating, it comes up, well, we've been dating for a while and, what do you think? And then you kind of talk about marriage. And so it may just be something that naturally comes up, but again, Isaac and I even discussed, when would we tell everyone? Like we said, we are not going to tell anyone until we're engaged, because then, again, that was a different milestone. It changed the dynamic again.
Yeah. I kind of went through something similar because, like I said, this was a summer job for me, and then it turned into, I found a relationship from it. And the next summer I came home and I was trying to decide what I was going to do. And we were still dating and everything was going really well. And I was at a point where I could look for another job, and he wasn't. He needed to stay working to pay for school, to pay for things that he needed, bills. And so it was easier for me because it wasn't a job that I was in love with, super invested in, wasn't going to become a career. I could say, all right, I'm going to go and find something else to do. This is, job to make money for the summer. This is job to get something on my resume. I can walk away. He really can't. It makes it easier for him to stay and me to go and find something else. And it was just about, I guess, putting what I thought he needed before the easy, I can go back to this job and maybe it won't be weird even though people know that we're dating now, or maybe it will be. Kind of, it eliminated a lot of the questions that I had and I thought that other people might have. So.
okay. And what about the boss direct report dynamic? What if that starts to look like that's going to turn into a relationship? Would you just tell people, stop that now? Don't ever do that?
Mm-hmm.
No, because then someone, if it does end badly, it's guaranteed that someone will have to leave.
Mm-hmm.
That's just really hard to have an objective view after you've dated and then separated.
Yeah. I can't think of any company off the top of my head that would not even explicitly say in, your agreement, you shouldn't have a relationship with your superior. That's pretty much covered wherever you go because it's inappropriate. It leads to a lot of inappropriate communication. It might lead to things going from superior to subordinate that aren't necessarily for the subordinate to know. It muddies the water. So I think, no, stay away from it.
Yeah. So, and a lot of companies would have policies against that. They might have policies around either being married and working in the same place. And if they don't, and there's always versions of that. So you can't be married and work with the same employer, or you have to work in different departments or different divisions. And then of course there's policies around direct report relationship, being in a relationship. So we're running into that stuff too. Okay, we're getting close to the end. I want to ask you all this question. So how about those folks that say, look, I want to be really good about setting boundaries at work and not having this even be an issue. So what recommendations would you say to someone to say, yeah, this is a way to avoid office romances and or know if someone is flirting with you? What are signals that you would say, yeah, if you're seeing this person's probably into you? Or if they ask you to do this, you probably want to say no because that could be confusing to them. They might think you're into them.
Probably a lot of it's the texting dynamic, because again, so many people, like, we have your cell phone number because we work together, right? Like, that's not a, hey, you're new or whatever, can I have your phone number because you work together? That's not an overtly, but it's a sneaky way to get a phone number. So I would recommend watching what is being said in those text messages.
So what is being said and how it's being said.
Yes.
So
some emojis in there.
I was about to say,
you might want to reel it in.
Quantity of emojis might be a signal that this person's
yes,
and frequency of texting perhaps.
Yeah, definitely.
And after hours texting, is that kind of a difference than saying during hours texting? Like
Agreed.
if they're like texting you on the weekend, like how's your weekend?
Yeah,
exactly.
Emoji, unicorn emoji, whatever.
I would say too, social media.
yes.
it's one thing for you to maybe be friends with the people that you work with on social media, because that's normal. You develop a friendship at work, and that's not inappropriate per se. But if you have a friend at work who starts liking a lot of your posts, starts taking the time to comment. Exactly.
Such a great profile.
Exactly. You know, that might be something that you say, nobody else at work is doing that. Maybe this person has some feelings for me, has a crush on me, and that's something that I want to address. So keep an eye out on your social media.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I have another one.
Okay.
Okay. When you're in a meeting.
Yeah.
Where do they always sit?
That's a good one.
Are they always sit beside you? Well.
Did Isaac do that?
Nope.
No.
We really we
'Cause
specifically
Isaac said I don't like girls.
Again, we specifically said we're gonna sit. I'm telling you, we talked about all this.
But if you saw people who always sat next to each other,
like if you had ladies, if you have a gentleman and he's always making sure he gets the seat beside you, that could be an indicator.
Can I give some input? Oh,
Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead. No.
So I was gonna say part of I think a lot has to do with what kind of goals you have. So do you have career goals or do you have like life goals? So do you want to go somewhere with your career or do you want to go somewhere with your life? I mean, I know they're tied together, but it can be separate as well. Just a thought.
So having that and also play out in this. Okay. All right. Any other signals that you would see in the workplace?
I was going to say free time. Like if you have a break at work and that person on their break, instead of, checking their phone, eating lunch, maybe going for a walk, if they're coming to you and saying, hey, what are you doing? Wanting to have a casual conversation, that might be another tip that they're looking to spend their free time with you, in the office and also outside of the office. So that's another.
So even if they're just so if you're in a more of a traditional office where people are sitting, if they just kind of casually walk over and want to chat with you, can also.
Yeah. I mean, like if they come up to you once every couple of weeks and hey, what are you up to? It might just be a friend. But if it's every break that you have, they're coming up and saying, hey, what's changed in the last 45 minutes since I last walked around the office to get water? That might be an indication that they're interested.
Any other signs?
I don't have a sign, but I have a warning sign to be careful for in the office.
Beware above it.
I don't know if I can cover it in a minute. Go. So one thing I would caution you about, if you have come out and you've said, hey, we're dating, or hey, we're engaged, even if the both of you are committed to being professional, other people around you may not be. That's another dynamic that's easily changed, because the wife and the husband or whatever can agree to say, we're going to be professional, and other people around you. Like one thing that we experienced is, as soon as we said, hey, wanted to let everyone know we're engaged, Isaac was referred to as my hubby, which I don't really think is appropriate personally. I should have just continued with Isaac.
Yes. I understand that.
Hubby, what do you think about that?
It's very true. I mean, I think that changes the dynamic, because then you can't work just regular with your coworker.
Yeah. So you have to set that precedence.
And what we didn't talk about today, which we'll talk about at a future show, is what happens if you work for a family-owned business and you have people who are married and they're in charge.
Looking right at me.
That's a whole other. That's a whole other thing. Like that's a whole other thing.
She's smiling, so we're okay.
I know.
No complaints.
All right, so I learned a lot, and
Did you?
I did. I actually did. I learned a lot. I learned about watching my texting. I learned about social media, and I learned about just this general idea of that even if there are some obvious things that you see when people are in romantic relationships, there are some subtle things like social media that happen after hours that can be signs. But what I heard from both of you, which was really fascinating, was you both said don't do it. You both said don't do it. And yet it worked so well for you. And you are saying don't do it. So that's interesting. So, all right. Any final closing thoughts before I take us home for the end of this week?
I realize ever since you told me not to eat the mic, I've rammed into it like 3 times.
That's disgusting.
I'm trying to be very aware of
that.
That
is
I'm trying to
completely
Like it's in my
Disgusting.
mind. Don't touch it. And then I keep
Do you
kind
know how many people have licked that mic?
I didn't lick it.
You rammed into it with your mouth.
By
Okay.
accident.
So we're
If you're watching on Facebook
We're
Live, hopefully you didn't catch it.
we're ending our show on romance with kissing mics. So thank you all for listening. I hope you found this as valuable as I did. Join us every week as we continue the fight against dysfunction, and follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/Brandon Smith, WPT for Workplace Therapist, Twitter @the WP Therapist. And of course, you can catch us on iTunes if you're not already, in itunes.thebrandonsmithshow.com. So until next week, have an awesome week and an awesome life.